Hello class, this is Nebu Sahura and welcome to Module 2 presentation. Understanding by Design. This module was designed by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. The Understanding by Design framework is rooted in setting an end goal and implementing planned and measured steps towards achieving that overall objective. It has a stated purpose of creating curriculum paths with clear built-in instructions and assessments. Through extensive planning by teachers and curriculum designers, task dedication can be achieved through its backward design model. Some of the pros and cons of the Understanding by Design framework are as follows. The pros are flexible, promotes engagement, targets student learning, and has a clear objective. And some of the cons are it's rigid, it's time intensive, and there's a learning curve. The Understanding by Design framework has three distinct stages. Stage one is identifying desired results. Stage two, determine assessment evidence. And stage three, plan learning experiences and instruction. Stage one, identify desired results. Stage one is rooted in a transfer of learning, has companion questions which make up a crucial part of this stage. These questions are used to increase the depths of student learning, and this level of understanding supports this transfer of learning. Stage one also relays facts, but not for the sake of providing accurate information, but rather, more importantly, the facts are used as a means to an end. The Understanding by Design framework never loses sight of the end goal objective. Acquiring knowledge and information is not to be checked off as content covered, rather as the acquisition of information being necessary for the journey towards reaching the initially stated goal. This goes beyond a student studying from a book and becomes a transfer of learning. Stage two, determine assessment evidence. Stage two has three key questions. The first is, how will we know if students have achieved the desired results? The second question is, what will we accept as evidence of student understanding and their ability to use and or transfer their learning in new situations? And then finally, how will we evaluate student performance in fair and consistent ways? Stage two focuses on two types of assessments. The first is performance tasks, and the second is other evidence. So, with performance tasks, students are asked to apply what they have learned to something new as proof of understanding. There are six facets of understanding for assessment purposes. A person who understands can one, explain, two, they can interpret, three, they can apply, four, they can demonstrate perspective, five, they can display empathy, and six, they can have self knowledge. Other tasks. With other tasks, this framework seeks evidence through traditional methods such as quizzes, tests, and observations. Stage 3, plan learning experiences and instruction. In stage 3, the teachers design activities that are aligned with the goals of stage 1, and teachers spend less focus on presentation and more emphasis on the transfer of learning. Also, in stage 3, there is a reinforcement of the need to extend beyond teaching as a telling of information, but rather a construct that allows the student to demonstrate what has been transferred. Understanding by design does not render traditional learning or textbook content irrelevant. It merely redirects conventional education approaches to a specialized learning that focuses on a pinpoint learning structure that reorientates customary order of knowledge consumption into a backward design model that sets a clear objective and unwavering pursues it without distractions from content that does not align with the end goal objective. Bloom's taxonomy. In 1956, Benjamin Bloom, along with collaborations from Max Engelhardt, Edward First, Walter Hill, and David Cawthwell, published a framework for categorizing educational goals. This newly formed framework is called Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, also known as Bloom's taxonomy. This framework is comprised of three hierarchical formatted learning domains. They are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Assigned to each of these domains are a hierarchy that corresponds to different levels of learning. Bloom's taxonomy has been utilized on the K through 12 level as well as the college level and is the most recognized and used framework for guiding the design of learning objectives today. Teachers devise systems that use descriptive verbs to stimulate critical thinking within students. This module begins with the initial lesson, starting with easier topics that gradually escalate into more complicated topics. The three domains of Bloom's taxonomy are affective domain, which covers feelings, emotions, and attitudes; cognitive domain, which covers knowledge, comprehension, and critical thinking; and finally, psychomotor domain, which covers manual or physical skills. Cognitive domain. This linear progression design was the first domain created by the original group of Bloom researchers. This domain focuses on intellect fueled by critical thinking, knowledge, and comprehension. The first level of cognitive hierarchy is remember. A sample learning outcome is remember the names and relationships of a cast of characters in a play. A sample assessment activity is a multiple choice test designed to test the memory of learners. And the rationale is a multiple choice test will allow educators to see whether students have effectively memorized the given material. The next level in the cognitive hierarchy is understand. Sample learning outcome is understand and explain the main ideas of a play or piece of literature. A sample assessment activity is write a short one-page paper summarizing the plot and most important events in the play. And the rationale is writing a summary encourages learners to think about what the most important parts of a piece of literature are and to decide which aspects of the plot to disregard in favor of a concise summary. It allows educators to evaluate whether or not they have understood the main idea of the play. The next level in the cognitive hierarchy is apply. A sample learning outcome. Apply the main ideas, themes in the play to another context. Sample assessment activity is write an advice column responding to one of the characters. And the rationale is in doing this assignment, learners will consider the implications of a character's actions outside of the consequences shown in the play. The next level in cognitive hierarchy is analyze. A sample learning outcome is be able to analyze the relative roles of each character in the play and their relationships to each other. Sample assessment activity, write an analytical paper comparing the antagonists and protagonists of the play. The rationale is through this assignment, as learners consider what makes each character an antagonist or a protagonist, they need to use both their knowledge of the play and critical thinking skills. The next level in the cognitive hierarchy is evaluate. A sample learning outcome is evaluate the decisions of characters in the play and support your evaluation with textual evidence. Sample assessment activity is write a response to one of the events in the play, either supporting or rejecting their actions based on evidence from the play, as well as personal opinions and projected actual consequences of action. And the rationale is through this assignment, learners will consider the rationale and consequences for actions in the play, leading them to understand and make judgments about the validity of a character's decision making. The final level of cognitive hierarchy is create. Sample learning outcome is create a new and unique piece of writing using similar plot devices. Sample assessment activity is create a short story using similar plot devices in a new time or setting. And the rationale is through this activity, learners must integrate the plot devices and writing techniques into a new setting, allowing them to practice their creative writing skills and showing their full understanding of the writer's techniques. Affective domain. This domain is based on attitudes, values, interests, appreciation of learners, and it focuses on helping learners understand what their own values are and how they have developed. The first level in affective hierarchy is receiving. Sample learning outcome is listen to other students with respect. A sample assessment activity is be an audience member to another student's presentation and then write a summary. And the rationale is through this assignment, learners will learn how to listen effectively to others as well as remember key details about their presentation. The next level of affective hierarchy is responding. A sample learning outcome is speak effectively in front of an audience and actively respond to others. A sample assessment activity is present on a subject in front of the class and answer questions from peers about their presentation. And the rationale is through this, learners will become more comfortable with public speaking as well as more comfortable with contributing to a discussion in the form of answering questions. The next level of effective hierarchy is valuing. Sample learning outcome is demonstrate and explain own values regarding various topics. The sample assessment activity, write an opinion piece on any issue explaining one's own stance and reasons supporting that stance. And the rationale is through this section, learners will explore not only their own values, but why they support their values, giving them a chance to understand more fully their own value system. The next level in effective hierarchy is organization. And a sample learning outcome is compare value systems and understand evidence behind values. A sample assessment activity is organize and compare different cultural value systems, evaluating the differences between them and why these differences may have arisen. And the rationale is in doing this activity, learners will consider how value systems are put into place and organized, as well as the evidence that supports different value systems across the world. The final level of effective hierarchy is characterization. Sample learning outcome is work well in a team of peers, and a sample assessment activity is a group project including group work on any assignment. And the rationale is by working in a group, learners must balance their own values with the values of the team, as well as prioritize tasks and practice teamwork. Bloom's taxonomy psychomotor domain. This domain focuses on a learner's physical ability to accomplish tasks and perform skills that involve movement. The next level of psychomotor hierarchy is reflex. A sample learning outcome is instinctively respond to a physical stimulus, and a sample assessment activity is a game of dodgeball. And the rationale is learners must react or dodge the balls that are being thrown at them, allowing them to develop their reflexive skills. The next level of a psychomotor hierarchy is basic fundamental movements. A sample learning outcome is perform a simple action, including running and throwing. A sample assessment activity is a game of dodgeball. The rationale is learners must throw and run to actively engage the opposing team, allowing them to develop these skills. The next level of the psychomotor hierarchy is perceptual abilities. A sample learning outcome is use more than one ability to integrate different sensory perceptions. A sample assessment activity is a game of catch or soccer or other game involving movement and passing. And the rationale is learners must integrate running, visual information about the position of the ball, and predictive information about the future position of the ball. The next level of the psychomotor hierarchy is physical abilities. A sample learning outcome is sustain an activity for a set period of time. And the sample assessment activity is run for 25 minutes steadily. And the rationale is this activity is a measure of the learner's stamina and physical fitness. The next level of the psychomotor hierarchy is skilled movements. A sample learning outcome is adapt one's behavior and movement to better achieve goals. And a sample assessment activity is a soccer or other strategic game like football or hockey. And the rationale is this activity allows teams to change their strategy and individuals to change their physical behavior depending on the response of the other team. The final level of the psychomotor hierarchy is non-discursive communication. Sample learning outcome is express oneself through purposeful movement and activity. A sample assessment activity is a soccer or other strategic game like football or hockey. And the rationale is these games all involve teamwork, strategy, and integrative and purposeful movement. Successful teams must integrate all of their senses, communicate through movement, and use a variety of adaptive strategies. There are 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and they are: first is knowledge, second is comprehension, third is application, fourth is analysis, the fifth is synthesis, and the sixth is evaluation. Knowledge covers the ability to recall specific information. And comprehension involves the ability to take acquired information and release it with accuracy and in your own words. Application is the ability to take existing information and apply it to something else in order to achieve a specific outcome. Analysis involves the ability to break down a topic's entirety into smaller components. Synthesis involves the ability to produce creative work. Evaluation involves the process of making a judgment about the information. Bloom's taxonomy is rooted in hierarchical principles, providing guidance on achieving effective results through improved learning methods and teaching techniques. It chooses an initial path of least resistance and progresses towards the more complex learning topics, utilizing descriptive verbs in order to clearly define and measurable learning objectives.